Hey, Jamie, do you like being cozy?
I do.
And do you like staying cozy?
I like that even more.
Then just heading over to www.staycozyclothing.com,
where you can find hoodies, tees, sweaters, and much, much more, with a new line coming in the fall of this year.
and just enter The Chronicles as one word at checkout to receive 10% off your order.
And make sure you follow them on the Instagram at Stay Cozy Clothing to keep up to date with all the new designs.
Remember, guys, that's The Chronicles as one word at checkout to receive 10% off your order.
Sounds good to me, man.
Sounds delicious, sir.
Excellent.
How's things going?
Sorry about the mix-up with the timing.
It's not you.
Yeah. Daylight savings time's totally your fault, Jeremy. All right? How dare you?
We had the same issue last week with AC Slade. It was just yeah, it's all good.
Oh, AC rules. I'm glad you talked to him.
Yeah, he's a good man. He's a very nice guy.
I like how you always went, name drop.
Nah, he's good people. I work with him a whole bunch. He's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
Dude.
Saying that, you've worked with fucking everyone.
Well,
so.
yeah.
A couple people here and there.
Some people we might have heard of, not entirely sure.
I'm loving all those vinyls behind us. Such an awesome backdrop, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I used to stream from my room where the background was just purple in my bed. And I was like, this is better.
I mean...
Fair enough. I mean, you got to go with what works for you. But I had the spare room and I moved my vinyl collection there. And I was just like, all right, you know what? Someone streaming behind a bunch of vinyl, if they're in music kind of stuff, looks better than my messy room. My room does not look that clean. It looks nothing like that. It's piles of stuff everywhere.
To be fair, Jeremy, this is my girlfriend's bedroom, so that's probably why it's so pristine.
See, my girlfriend and I share a bedroom, and that's why it's not.
Beautiful. Anyway, I believe we should actually hammer the shit out of you with some questions. How about that?
Sounds good to me. Let me silence my phone, make sure it's not going to annoy anyone.
Yes, please. That'd be awesome.
We are good.
Wonderful. Jamie.
So what I normally do is I just do an intro, and then, as Tom says, we throw a ton of questions at you.
Sounds good.
Right, let's get going. Ladies and gents, today we have a first ever for our show. Today's guest has got to be one of the luckiest and most talented people I've ever met. If there's someone in rock and metal you like and admire, this man has probably met them and taken their photo. With a client list longer than both mine and Tom's arms put together, including at least one of our former guests on this very show. He's a teacher, a director, an author, but most notably a photographer. Welcome to the show, the wonderful and amazing Mr. Jeremy Saffer.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to USUK Chronicles, sir.
Absolute pleasure to have you here, Jeremy, seriously. So, first and foremost, how's your last year been, sir?
Luckily, the book happened. So I would have been doing a whole lot of nothing all year, if not for that book. And for Maria as well, who was just like, hey, you should come over to my house and shoot a music video, which is how the New in This Moment video happened. But I was really, really lucky in that when the pandemic did hit and I had nothing at all going on, I got hit with putting the book together, which took months and months and months and months, which wouldn't have been out when it came out if not for the pandemic, double-edged sword. But I got shot 1, I get shot 2 in 3 days. So hopefully I'll be back to doing photo things in a couple of months. Fingers crossed.
Do you not like, because obviously with photography, other than the band being together, you're quite far away anyway, aren't you?
No. I'm always like right up in your face.
Oh, really?
Sometimes. Yeah. I'm all over the place. But, I mean, it depends on what you're shooting and how you're shooting it. Sometimes you'll shoot with a really long lens. Sometimes you'll shoot with, a wide angle lens. I'm usually right in the middle. I'm usually shooting 24 to 70 is my favorite lens to use. And now 24-90 because Leica. But yeah, sometimes I'll be, those headshots you see where it's just a face taking up the whole frame. Yeah. I'm not far away for that.
It's literally like what there.
The lens could be this close to someone's face.
That's
absolutely.
insane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I had a weird image of you picking a camera with a lens on, but the lens is so long that you're really struggling to lift it.
I very rarely shoot with that kind of lens unless I'm shooting like a drummer, from a drummer on stage far back. That's when I'll pop that lens on and get those shots.
Yeah, nice. So obviously you've mentioned the book, but obviously with being locked away and stuff, has there been any, ever like learned a language or taught yourself anything new at all? Or was it literally just book the whole time?
The book took up a good chunk of time, but the book came out in October. So since then I've been kind of looking at new equipment, looking at new types of lighting, looking at all kind of stuff like that. I started a Patreon where I do a lot of kind of behind the scenes. And because I don't have new shoots, I get to dig into my archive. So, for example, I pulled out I think 2012 motionless and white photo shoot, and I dug into all these shots that never came out. And I re-edited all the shots that were out, broke down every single image in terms of this is the lighting, these were the settings on my camera, this is the story behind the shoot, this is how we shot it, this light, behind the scenes shots of me doing the shoot, that kind of stuff. So I've been doing a lot of that on the Patreon, which has been fun. And
awesome.
Yeah, other than that, just messing with gear.
Nice, so dude. For you to be able to make a note of like what settings you're using, do you just remember that, or do you like make a note from like every shoot you do?
So luckily, metadata means you take a photo and then you press the I button in Lightroom and it tells you what you use, because I would have no clue. But in terms of lighting, I do know the lighting I used in most shoots, and that's why I do behind the scenes photos. And that's why anytime I do a photo shoot, when I'm doing a shot, I'll do, the regular shot, but then I'll put on a wide lens. I'll zoom out so you get the whole, the whole scene, and I'll take one shot. So I remember, okay, this is what I did for lighting. This is what the setup was. And I have that photo in the photo shoot for me to, remember what I did.
That's very clever.
That's amazing.
I was going to say, I was worried your memory is going to be like his for a minute then, because this man has the scariest memory I've ever known on a man.
Oh, dude, no, I'm like Dory at best.
I like that. That's good. So take us back, sir. Was photography always the plan for you, or was it something you sort of fell into?
Totally fell into it. I was a musician. So I started off as a guitarist. My dream growing up was, be a rock star. So age like 10, I picked up a guitar. 12, I started lessons with a dude who lived on my street named Ollie Herbert, who became the guitarist of All That Remains, later on. But he was my guitar teacher growing up. I was in a bunch of, metal and death metal bands. And we would sometimes open up for bigger bands, and I would take pictures, with a disposable camera. That's how I started, disposable cameras.
Amazing.
And kind of a funny story. When I started getting photo passes, how tickets, when you get a ticket for a show, it says, no cameras, no video, that kind of thing. I didn't realize that didn't mean photographers who have photo passes. So I would roll up to a show with like 10 disposable cameras and shoot a show like that, thinking that's how it's done. That's how I started when I was like 14. I had no idea.
Is that when you wind it afterwards? So it's like,
yeah.
Wind it really, like, fuck, that's a really good shot. Come on.
Exactly. So I'm in the photo pit, 14 years old, 15 years old, taking pictures with a disposable camera, wondering, like looking at every other photographer with professional equipment going, how did they get that in here? And they're looking at me with like, how did he get in here? And I'm just like, well... And none of them helped me out. None of them were like, by the way, you have a photo pass, so you can get a real camera. But basically what happened, I went to Berklee School of Music when I was 18, and that was my dream. My dream was to go to Berklee, become a rock star, that kind of thing. And I started to hate playing music, because my thing was I could play metal, right? But you try to get me to play blues, no. So I was like in, what was it, jazz ensemble, blues ensemble, something like that. And I had a 7-string BC Rich Warlock. And if you know, that's a very spiky, evil looking guitar. My guitar strap was giant spikes coming out of it because I'm a black metal dude. And I'm playing this riff, whatever it is, from like red suede shoes, blue suede shoes, whatever the standard is. And the teacher's like, can you play that with a little more souls? And I'm like, dude, I have a 7-string Warlock. My guitar eats souls. What am I supposed to... I don't know how to play it with more soul. And I just kind of hit a wall there where I was just so frustrated. And the way I blew off that frustration was going to shows and shooting shows. That by that time I had a real camera. I wasn't shooting disposables anymore, thankfully. Yes, I learned. But so I basically hit a wall, and after 2 semesters, I talked to the dude who got me into shooting shows. His name's Scott Lee, great dude. And I was basically like, I don't know what to do. This has been my trajectory, since I was 10, was to become, go into music. And he was just like, what do you want to do? What do you like to do? I'm like, shoot shows, shoot concerts, take pictures. He's like, do that. And it never occurred to me to be something I could actually do, not just for fun, not just because I'm a fan. Because, why do people get into the music industry? Because they're fans of music, right? So I would cover shows, not necessarily shows where I love the band every time, but I loved getting that experience of being like how cool is it that you get to be the closest fan to the band? The fans behind you bought tickets, they're behind you, you're closer. It's such a kind of nerdy little thing to have in your pocket, like, oh, I'm but yeah, so after that I kind of dove into it, started touring a bit. Then I went to photo school, which was a 10-month photo school called the Hallmark Institute of Photography. Unfortunately, they're no longer open, but it was kind of like the 4 years in 10 months kind of thing.
Wow.
So I jumped off Ozfest, did my 10 months at school, went right back on Ozfest, but instead of shooting on auto and not knowing my settings, not knowing anything, I went back knowing everything about photography, because they really taught you the foundation. It was all on film, like the first, from the fall all the way up until I think February or March, you were on film and you weren't even touching digital. So I learned basically the foundation of photography on film, which I think is really, really important when you're a photographer. So you're not just learning just the newest tech, you're also learning the basics of photography, which is really, really important. And I went back knowing lighting. And the cool thing was, when I was at school, I had bands coming into the school to do photo shoots. So like my family portrait was bleeding through, and tour buses were coming up to the school, and the school didn't know what to do. They're like, why is there a tour bus here? But yeah, I just got way into it, and that's how I kind of put down my guitar and picked up a camera. And I'm still in the music industry, and I'm still in that world. I'm just a photographer instead of a guitarist, I guess.
So fucking, I had an image in my head of you being like, when you first started, like, some of the disposables, and then when you come back out of school, you're like flipping around, like taking shots mid-air and like, through the legs, that sort of thing. That's unbelievable. Sorry, Jamie.
I was going to say,
no, I just don't think I have the physical dexterity for that.
Oh, brilliant.
So you're saying you came off tour from Ozfest to then do that and then go back. How did you get to tour with Ozfest in the first place? Was that off your own back, or was that like hired to do it?
It was all about who having friends on the tour. Touring with one of the bands on the tour, you end up meeting the other bands on the tour. And one of the bands I toured with the most back in the day was All That Remains. Awesome. Ollie being my guitar teacher, they're from my town, they're all close friends. So I did a lot of years on the road with them, just touring as a photographer. And at one time, one of my closest friends was Shannon, their drummer, who's no longer their drummer, but he was my roommate as well. So it was just joining my roommate on tour, which was fun.
Amazing. Do you miss it at the moment with COVID and everything?
I haven't toured since I think 2011 or 12.
Oh, wow.
I Russell the Bear once. That was my last tour. Because I really don't do live photography as much as I do portrait photography. I still shoot live every now and again, but portraiture is definitely my main thing rather than concert photography. And in terms of touring, you get this, this is your weekly rate. This is what you do every day. This is your thing. But for me, it was more about doing photo shoots. So the last tour I did with Iwabo, I brought my lights with me, and I was like, okay, there's a cool location over here. I'm going to break out my lights. We're going to do a photo shoot. And we ended up doing something like 15 photo shoots during the tour. And it was so much fun. And the Chariot was on the tour, so I did shoots with them. I Set to Kill, Chelsea Grin, Vanna, and I know I'm forgetting somebody. It was such a fun tour. But that's when I was way more into portraiture, and I kind of figured out, okay, if I'm getting this much a week doing live photos where you really kind of shoot the same thing every day. It's the same show every day, and you come up with different ways to shoot it and how to get kind of different material every time you shoot, you're still shooting the same thing. And to me, that's just kind of, if it was like such a crazy production show, which nothing against Iwabo, their show's amazing, but it's not like they have, you know, backup dancers, a big theatrical show. It's like they play a concert. They're not doing a show. If I was on tour with a band like, you know, Rammstein, Iron Maiden, In This Moment, Metallica, they put on insane shows. And that would be something I would be totally keen to do. But in terms of touring with a band, I don't think I would do it again, just because you're shooting the same thing over and over. I love concert photography, but that's definitely not my main thing as portraiture is. And I would want to do like photo shoots all the time, which sometimes you can do. But yeah, I really kind of over time had that kind of the scales of, you know, shooting concerts versus portraits, and those scales definitely flipped.
So it's like it's a hierarchy, I take it. So it's like live shot style. Portraiture is like the top level where people come to you, I take it, to be like, do people come to you with that? Do they go, oh, could you shoot this, you know, do we have this idea? What do you think about it? Or do you go, well, I've got this and this idea, what do you think of this?
It's always different. Every single shoot is a completely different animal, because sometimes you're reaching out to a band, sometimes a magazine's reaching out to a band, a label's reaching out to you, a band's reaching out to you, and it all comes together differently. Sometimes it's all on the photographer. Sometimes it's 100% the artist to come up with like, here's our idea, here's what we want to do, make it happen. You know, here's how we want you to light it, here's how we want you to shoot it. And you just basically take their words and make it visual. And then other times it's very collaborative, and that it's more collaborative more so than anything else. It's more so like you have an idea, you bounce it off the band, and they say, yes, let's do this, this, and this, and do this differently. And you kind of work it out. And then sometimes it's done on the spot, where it's like, you know, you have a photo shoot set up for a magazine and you don't know what's going to happen. You have no contact with the band prior to the shoot. You show up and you go, okay, here's the idea. And you just do it and you roll with it and do whatever you want to do.
That's
awesome.
That's really cool. That's got to take some real like on the spot thinking, I imagine. Because like some band walks in and goes, so Jeremy, what do you want to do? You're like, hold this. I don't know.
You never go into a photo shoot blind. And maybe when you first start you do, but I think once you've done photography for a bit, you kind of look at the band, you look them up, you do your research, you see what they look like, you have an idea of their visuals, you know not to take Behemoth into a brightly colored, you know, pink background kind of situation, and you know, light it dark, light it metal, make it look cool. Yeah, you kind of have an idea before you go in. And so when I do a shoot, say I have a photo shoot at my local venue, the Palladium, with, we'll say Behemoth, I'll know, okay, are we doing this shoot before doors or are we doing the shoot after doors? Do we have access of the whole venue, or are we stuck with a dressing room? With a band like Behemoth, they do their makeup directly before stage, so you really can't do a photo shoot with them before doors are open, whereas you're like, okay, cool, I can use the floor of the venue, I can use the stage, I can use the front of the venue, I can use the parking lot, I can use anywhere, as opposed to doors open, okay, we have the dressing room, that's it. And if you know you're going into the dressing room and you've been there before, you're like, okay, what lights am I going to bring to make it look not like a dressing room? Because I think the ideal thing to do when you're doing a photo shoot is to make it look like it's not where it is. Unless you have a really cool location, you're usually shooting at a venue. You know, you're like on the floor of a venue, on the stage or dressing room of a venue, and you don't want it to look like a green room photo. Like, hey, we're on this shitty couch 1,000 bands have shot on, 50,000 times. Here's our, stage clothes. Here's our beers. Here's our dirty laundry. Let's make a cool photo. And it's kind of like, you have to have in mind what you're going to do before you go into it, for sure. So I kind of have it, okay, we're going to shoot on the floor with a single light. We're going to shoot on the floor with 3 lights. We're going to go over to the stage and shoot with a ring light. We're going to do solo shots with the ring light. We're going to go up to the dressing room and do a single light shot with lighting from above. And then we're going to call it a day. And that's all we need. So I always go in with that kind of
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's amazing.
So cool. I imagine with bands like GWAR, do they come in and basically go, right, we're going to need about 7 hours to get ready. We'll be with you shortly. So like, okay. And you just have to sit there and wait for them to get sorted, or are they not fussed? Because there are quite a lot. I've noticed like Mortis, Ghost, they obviously all have makeup and everything else. So I take it they have to get ready first before you can shoot them.
Absolutely. And that goes two different ways. Sometimes if the shoot's important enough and big enough, they will get ready, well before they have to get
Oh,
ready.
awesome.
So you have enough time to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Or they'll, do it on a day off, or, do it early in the day, get out of it, relax, do their thing, and then get into it again. Every single time I've shot GWAR, it's been them on the way to stage. Except for the one I just posted, actually, the one with fence in it. That shoot,
love that so much.
So fun. That shoot, they were at a horror convention and they just finished a signing, and they do their signings in costume, of course. So they do the signing, they came over to the set, and then went back to the venue, got comfortable. I think Odorous had a full day that day because they were doing a lot of Holliston stuff, the TV show he was on. So he was doing interviews, he was doing all that stuff, but everybody else got to just relax.
Yeah.
But every other time I've shot GWAR, Slipknot, most bands like that, it's directly before stage, but instead of them getting ready at like 8 o'clock, they get ready at 7:15 kind of thing. So I get to have that 5-10 minutes, whatever, to do the photo shoot before they go on.
Amazing.
That's really cool. So how did you get your breakthrough to get where you are now? Because as I said, you've worked with everyone. Was it like one specific shoot you did that people jumped on, or was it just, I don't know, through time?
I think social media, actually. Social media was really the thing that kind of got me out there. I don't think there's any one specific shoot that kind of broke it, because I had been friends with some really decently well-known bands. Like my first band shoot was, Bleeding Through, Lacuna Coil, and A Life Once Lost, stuff like that.
Nice.
And that was, my first shoots before I had any idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
So having that in your portfolio when you're first starting is always a good thing. I think the thing that really kind of elevates you to the next level, not in terms of the quality of your image, but in terms of you being known, is definitely who you shoot and people seeing that. So having, my chem blow up on I'm Not Okay, and their main image on MySpace saying, photo by Jeremy Saffer on it. Yeah, MySpace is where I got the first, My Chem, Avenged, 18 Visions, all those bands having my name under them back then, when right as they were starting to break, was always, a good thing. And then you'll see that go in waves, because, that was one era, and that era is long gone. Even though we all want My Chem back, of course, because that's going to be amazing. That's not what's popular with the younger generation right now. So if, say, I did, I don't know who's super popular right now, like a Lil Nas shoot, and my credit was under his photo, that would, do the same thing, kind of level me to this whole new audience, just as it did with, Motionless in White, In This Moment, New Year's Day, that kind of stuff. So as I continue shooting and working with these new bands who kind of go up and up and up, it also takes my name with them into their fan bases. And so I still, just like any other band, I hold on to the old fan bases because I still have those photos, and I, get introduced to new fan bases with the bands I work with.
Didn't even think about that. Like, as you're saying that with My Chem and Avenged, like there must be quite a few bands you've done shoots with, and then later down the line you've gone, wow, you have skyrocketed since we first met.
It's awesome, and it's like, it's really cool when, for example, New Year's Day. That's a great example. They're a band I met when they were first relaunching into their kind of like goth era, about to put out their first album. I actually shot the cover and the band photos for their first album, even though it's not their first album. Their first album,
it's always the way. The first album's their third album.
Yeah, exactly. But it's amazing to see them go from there to where they are now. And like A Day to Remember, if you see right here, this giant yellow chunk behind me is for those who have heart. And I shot the cover, all the band photos for that album. And, while I was photographing them back then, they were playing VFW halls on the floor to 30 people. And now they're playing arenas, and like, it's insane. Like, I was talking to Alex about it when he came to the photo shoot for the For Those Who Have Heart photo shoot. His dad had to bring him up because he was like 15 at the time. And now he's about to be a dad, and he's in his 30s. And it's just like, dude, what is time?
He got married recently, didn't he?
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like they just from floor shows to arenas in like 2 years. They just blew up,
Oh,
and they were so good. Such a great band. Like
um,
that album came out, and I'm like, everybody, you need to listen to this band. They're incredible. They're like, if Newfound Glory and Bury Your Dead got into a fight, and it was awesome. Check it out. You know.
what are your? Have you listened to the new album? You're welcome.
Yeah, I've listened to it. I got to give it more spins, but it's super catchy.
So I love it.
Definitely
Right?
interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people are hating on it though. I've noticed loads of people not liking it because it's they're going too mainstream, too poppy now. It's like they're still probably they're my favorite band, one of my favorite bands ever. I love A Day to Remember so much.
Ah, nice.
And they just go from strength to strength to strength. I think. Like I love the new album. I've listened to it so many times. I just can't get enough.
Well, if you listen to the new album, there's definitely aspects of the first album on there. Like
Exactly.
if you listen to For Those Who Have Heart, there are poppy like vocal lines in there, and that exists now.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy.
You know?
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank the other Jeremy. Thank Jeremy McKinnon. He's awesome. Such a rad dude.
I'd love to get him on here. Sorry, we'll carry on. Anyway, what's the most like unusual prop you've ever had to use in a photo shoot that you've gone, that'll be really cool to use?
Well, there's definitely been many times, that shoot included, where I run to Home Depot and grab like chains and bats and hammers, and they're just like, do I need to call the police in a week? Or like, I actually have the bat from the cover of that album. I had them all sign it, and I have it in the other room, which is pretty cool.
No way.
Yeah, I keep a lot of the props because they're just cool memories. I did a book with Ash Costello called Till Death, where it was similar, where I was buying, a shovel, duct tape, a bat, all sorts of like, stuff to destroy Christy K's life with, because the whole book is kind of a comedy, kind of like she's beating him up, doing terrible things to him. It's like a Addams Family kind of thing. And yeah, same thing. You're checking out and they're just like, well, do I need to alert the authorities, or like what's going on here? But I don't think there's any like super unusual props I can think of beyond just, really concerning my local Home Depot.
So can you remember who the first like band, artist, person, whatever it was, that you sort of had to like pinch yourself and be like, am I seriously working with this person right now? What is my life?
So that happens all the time, but the whole thing is just having that game face, not letting them see it. It's definitely surreal. Not so much when you're doing the photo shoot, because I get into this thing like this like zone where I'm just thinking the lighting, the posing, and people kind of laugh at it because I'm very directional. I'm not a photographer who has a band go on the set and I go, okay, just look metal. Okay, be goofy. I'm very like chin up, turn your face this way, turn your left shoulder in, turn your chin up a little bit, turn your face toward the light a little bit. You chin up, turn your face this way, rotate this way a little bit. I'm very like, that's how I do. I'm very making sure the shots look good. And people are sometimes kind of laugh at it because they're like, no one talks to this band like this. And you just direct them. It's great. And I get that feedback from the bands themselves, which is great. They're like, no photographers ever direct us. Thank you. This is awesome. You know what you want. You know how to make it look good. We want to work with you again. You know what you're doing. This is awesome. Because I guess a lot of photographers aren't very directive. I am, because I'm just in that zone and I know I need to make sure the lighting looks good, the shot looks good, everything's 100%, because I got, sometimes 1 minute to get that shot. So I'm not thinking of, Megadeth's in front of me, which is always the coolest thing in the universe. But it's like, okay, I need to make sure these shots look good so they can use them so it looks awesome for them. So it doesn't really go like, oh my God, this is awesome. It kind of happens after, where you're like, oh, cool. Every single Megadeth press release for the last 5 years has my photo on it. That's awesome. There's bootleg CDs with my photos as the cover. I'm going to buy a bootleg because my photo's on the cover, that kind of stuff. But yeah, and like Alice Cooper, how can you not be like, oh my God, Alice Cooper's in front of me right now? That's so awesome. But you just got to stay on point. Even better, Alice Cooper and Johnny Depp and Joe Perry at the same time. You're just like,
that's insane. Yeah.
Johnny Depp is photobombing my photo shoot with Alice Cooper right now. Okay.
Just a regular Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny Depp walks in this set and he's just like, I'm having a day. I hope you have some Vaseline for your lens. And I'm just like laughing. I'm like, homie, you're like a national treasure to every woman in the universe. So you're fine. We start doing the photos.
That's so cool, man. So
yeah, it's all about having that game face.
Absolutely.
I get it, because we do it sometimes, like before we do an interview, we're like, oh my God, I'm going to talk to this person. Oh my God, we're going to talk to this person. Then as soon as we press record, we're like, professional. And then as soon as it finishes, we phone each other and we're like, oh my God, that just happened.
We're going to do it after this trip, don't worry.
Oh yeah, totally.
Nice. I think the coolest thing is sometimes I'll get phone calls or emails or whatever and have to talk on the phone with some of the people I've looked up to since I was 10 years old. And when you look up to a band when you're young, you kind of watch all their interviews, you watch all the kind of behind the scenes stuff, and you're kind of on the phone with them, and you start zoning out for a second, going like, this person I've watched on TV for like 20 years is talking to me on the phone right now, and that's the voice coming out of my phone, and they have my phone number and they're calling me, and that's cool. Oh wait, what are they? What? Yeah, okay, I got you.
That's a point, actually. The phone book on your phone must be insane.
Oh, remember, who was it? Was it Paris Hilton? Her phone got hacked and all of her contacts got leaked. It was years ago. And then the big one that got leaked was Fred Durst, and everyone was just hitting him up. And he was just like, stop calling me. Oh, God damn it, Paris, I got to change my number.
So we briefly mentioned it a minute ago, and I've got to ask about this. The Facebook post you put the day with GWAR and the fence. I was roaring with laughter reading that. You must have so many stories like that with different bands, just silly, fun shit. Is there any particular like really fun stories that come to your mind with different bands?
See, and here's the thing, and this goes back to me being Dory. I didn't think of that story or remember that story at all. I was flipping through like, I need something to post today. And it didn't even occur to me that it was like days before the anniversary of Dave's passing. I was just going through like, oh, why do they have the fence? Oh my God, I remember. So I take the photo, I pop it in there, I start typing out and remembering the story, and it just all comes back to me. If I'm put on the spot with like, what's a fun story? I'm like, let me look at photos 1 second. Like I can't, it doesn't come back to me until I'm looking at the photos, until they're in front of me, where the visual cues kind of remind me of what happened that day.
Yeah,
it's really difficult to Dory, like I said, I'm the most forgetful person ever. But I know one of the fun stories was destroying a hotel room with Lacuna Coil. We were doing a shoot for a shoe company called Draven. They did all those Misfits shoes back in the early 2000s, the ones where half the skull was on one, half the skull was on the other. You put them together, you got the skull. Every single metalcore band in the universe had them. They made like Misfits pumps, Misfits everything. We did a shot where she was in a bathtub, and then we dyed the bathtub black with RIT, which is clothing dye, so it would look like she's just in this black bathtub. And we put handprints all over the walls, and it looks so cool. And it apparently dyed her cuticles black for like a week. And the hotel called me like after, because I paid a cleaning bill for it, and they're like, yo, never come to our hotel again. I'm like, all right, sorry. Oops.
Wow.
Worth it. Good photos.
Fuck you, hotel.
I paid the cleaning bill. It is what it is.
That's amazing.
So why do you rarely convert to black and white? Because the Corey Taylor photo and the Claudio Sanchez photos are unbelievable. And I feel like you should be doing more with that because they look stunning, man. So why don't you reuse it very often?
I did when I shot film, because film would come as black and white or color. So if I shot a black and white roll, it was black and white, and there was nothing I could do to change it. But for me, I just always like color more. I always like the colors coming out of shots, and I even mute the colors a lot in my photos. You'll see there's not a lot of like really bright poppy colors in my photos. So they're kind of in the middle of color and black and white. And when I go full black and white, I feel like I lose a lot of what I like in the photos.
Okay.
But it also depends on how it's exposed. I think if you're shooting natural light, very, very open f-stop, like 1.2, like those shots of Corey and the shot of Claudio, I think those translate to black and white really well. I think if you take one of my images that shot at like f8, f10, where it's not just like eyes are in focus, but the whole thing is sharp, like everything's sharp. I think in black and white, it doesn't add to it. It just takes away from it. It doesn't really look, it doesn't have that aesthetic. I think natural light shots definitely do. But yeah, I don't know. I've always been like, okay, if I shoot it in black and white, it's in black and white. If I shoot it in color, it's in color.
Okay, it's just
personal preference.
That's all right. That's fair enough. I mean, the vibe I got from it was very real. It was like the emotion. You could see the emotion in it, sort of thing. Especially with Corey's one. So that's why I was curious, because as soon as I looked, I was like, that screams power. It's so powerful without meaning to be. I feel. I don't know. That's just what I took away from it. So.
Yeah, I love that shot of Corey. That was shot at Chicago Open Air. I was doing that cover for Metal Hammer, where it's like Corey and Randy. I actually have a funny story about that one. Corey and Randy. All right, so that cover had everybody on it, like Dave Mustaine, Scott from Anthrax, Papa from Ghost, Elisa from Arch Enemy. You know, it had everybody on the cover because it was their 300th cover. But one of the funny things was that was a big cover for them, of course. Their editor, Merlin, flew over from England. And this was the first time I was meeting him, and they hired me to do the shoot because I knew I had a good rapport with a lot of those bands.
Yeah.
And so I'm there just doing stuff, doing all the shoots. We have this little tent backstage where we're doing all the photo shoots. And, you know, we're 2 tents away from Blackcraft, where Blackcraft is doing a bunch of interviews with bands. Corey and Randy are doing their shots together. They come in, they're walked in by security, and Randy stops, and he just kind of hobbles. He's like, dude, what's up, Saffer? How's it going? You know, and then he starts doing photos of me. Like with because we're both photographers and we're both good friends.
Okay.
But he starts doing photos of me, and Merlin's just laughing, and like his entire security crew is just like, and whoever from management was there trying to kind of wrangle them over to Blackcraft was like, Randy, Blackcraft first, that next. He's like, no, hold on. And he's doing photos of me. Actually, the photo of me, that's the black and white photo of me with my mustache and all that was done by him. The one that's in my book and whatnot. So they go do their interview. They come back, and Merlin's like, dude, he's wearing a hat. He's wearing flip-flops. Is there any way we can get him in shoes and to take off his hat? You know, just it's a cover. We want it to look good. And Randy's like, no, I'm not changing for... Wait, Saffer, what do you think? I'm like, honestly, it's going to be a full body. It's going to be a cover. You with your hair down is iconic. I think the shoes will look better than flip-flops. It's totally up to you, dude. And he's like, I won't do it for any of you but Saffer. And that looks so good amazing. In front of Merlin. It looks so good. It was so great. And then the same day, I was doing a photo shoot with John Davis, and his tour manager came over and he was like, there's no way the shoot is happening. We can't do this shoot. There's no chance. We're not getting John over here to do this. It's not happening. And Merlin's like, hey, we have a problem. Come to set. I walked to set, and his tour manager is Sebastian Poquet. He did that incredible film called Mind Over Matter, which everyone should see. It's a film about a guitarist with cerebral palsy learning to play guitar. And he started a band called the Mendenhall Experiment. It's really, really good. An incredible documentary and amazing filmmaker. But he turns around and he goes, oh, it's Saffer? We got this. We'll do it. Yeah, it's fine. And I had to bring my set to them, which is fine. I'm used to doing that. So I bring the set to the building, set up, get ready to go. Davis is, going back and forth, pacing like, I don't want to do this shoot. I don't want to do shoots during days where I have a show. Only do shoots on off days. I don't want to do this. If it's only going to take a few minutes, and I'm fine, but like, I really don't want to do this. He looks in and goes, oh, it's Saffer? All right, this is going to be fine. We got this. And he walks in, and it's just like, thank you all for making me look so good in front of the editor.
That is incredible.
Yeah, you can't pay for that kind of like,
Oh, I bet it's just like, yep. So, where do you want to go? Let's do this.
Yeah, and the cover came out great. And I actually did another cover with Korn where we did Stranger Things, which was really, really cool for Metal Hammer. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I just shot that down.
I love the fact I love the fact we've had 2 guests now. Both have told amazing Randy stories.
He is the best dude ever, for real. He actually wrote the intro to my book as well.
Oh, it's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Because we had Melissa Cross on the show, who's a vocal coach.
Yep.
Yeah, and she talked about going through like sex shops in New York with Randy and stuff like that. I was like, this is just wonderful.
That's awesome.
So I love
Randy rules so much.
I love that you also do like seminars to teach people how to do this themselves. How did you get into doing that, and what sort of things do you teach people?
So early on, I had a lot of trouble learning. Obviously, if I spent the first 2 years shooting on disposable cameras, no one was helping me out and telling me don't do that. So I reached out to a couple photographers who are really, really big name photographers, asking for advice, and they gave me really snarky criticism trying to shut me down as a photographer. Like, that's how it worked back then. A lot of the photographers kept their stuff as like, these are secrets that I do not share with other people. I'm not going to help you out, kid. Good luck. Learn it on your own like I did. And I don't have that mentality. I have we all rise together. If you need help getting up here, I'm reaching down. Grab my hand. If I need help getting up there, I'm reaching up. Help me up. I think that's how it should always be. So really early on, I got into doing seminars, probably a little too early, but like I always wanted to teach what I knew. I wanted to make it so people who wanted to do what I do didn't have to go through all the struggles I went through. I don't consider it like, what do they call it? Paying your dues kind of thing. Everyone's going to have to do that in one way or another, but it's not necessary for people to go through learning things the hard way when they can learn it, and be helped with it. So I got into that super early, and I've always thought like, teaching people how to do what I do is awesome. More photographers is a good thing. And there's so many now. It's insane. It's awesome. Everybody's creating and it's great. So yeah, I got into it and I just kept doing it. Of course, like I haven't been able to do it last year or this year, which is a bummer, which is why I started the Patreon. I've kind of put seminar stuff on there rather than doing them in person. I miss it. I love doing seminars. It's a lot of talking, but like it's fun because it's usually 2 8 to 10 hour days. It's long.
Oh.
Yeah, it's brutal, but I basically take everything I know and load it to people. And then, that's day one. Day one is words and slideshows and teaching them everything I know. Day two, I set up lights. I have a band come in. A band does a real life photo shoot with me. So they get an idea of how I shoot, aside from seeing it in words, seeing it in person. And then the camera gets handed off to them. Okay, I'm the tour manager. You have 2 minutes. Do a photo shoot with this band. Tell me what you want for lighting. Go. And
That's
so they
incredible.
get to do photo shoots with the bands and kind of learn firsthand. And it's really cool because they don't do just one set. They do like 6 to 10 sets with different lighting, different backgrounds, outdoors, indoors, with usually a pretty well-known band. And not only does it build their portfolio, but it builds their confidence. And that's the hardest thing to build when you're a photographer. Going into a shoot and knowing, okay, I have the confidence to walk in and go, I know what I'm doing. This is what I want you to do to make the shot look good. I think that's something that comes with the more you do it, the more you get that confidence. So this is just a massive confidence boost for those students to really get that first experience or, another experience in to really kind of hone in what they're doing. And I have people that take the seminars like 3, 4, 5 times because they love it. And, every time they do it, they get better and better and better. And it's so awesome seeing so many of them go on to lead incredible careers as photographers.
That's absolutely unbelievable.
And fair play. If I was wearing a hat, I'd tip it because that, like you say, a lot of people, especially in an industry like that, it's like, if I teach you how to do it, you could be better than me, and then you're going to take my jobs. So, it's a fair play. I really commend that. See, like I said at the start, you're an awesome dude. So, obviously, not only do you photography, you mentioned at the start as well about doing in this moment's latest music video. Mm-hmm. How did that come about doing music videos? And what's the process like for that? Was that like a big change, or was it a lot easier to translate than you expected?
Maria is the most incredible human being in that she does, how I talked about all of us rising together. She's that person. She brings people with her on her adventures and helps them learn, helps them expand. And she's definitely done that for me a whole bunch. Like, I'm not a graphic designer. I'm a photographer. the first big graphic design I did was the In This Moment Black Widow album cover, where I took a photo of her that was her with a terrible background of a wall standing on a box, and recreated the entire background, added rain, made it look all Sin City-ish, and it took hours and hours and hours, and then I accidentally saved it too small, so it couldn't be used, and I had to redo it again. Learning experience. But it was one of those things where she hit me up. She's like, so I want you to do this album cover, and this is how I want it to look. I'm like, I don't know how to do it. And she's like, oh, that's fine. You can figure it out. She has that confidence in the people she believes in, and I'm lucky, really, really lucky to be one of those people. So I was planning out a photo shoot with her because she doesn't live too far from me, not far at all. So she was coming to the studio to do a photo shoot, and she's like, oh, by the way, when we do this photo shoot, let's shoot a music video for the song Fighter. And I'm like, so I don't know how to do that. Oh, you'll figure it out. It's fine, honey. You got this, And I was just like, well, you know what? I learned how to be a graphic designer. I'm going to learn how to figure out how to do a music video. And it was like, I've been on music video sets as a photographer. I know it's like 16-hour days, insane long days, tons of setup, tons of stuff. We shot that video in 45 minutes with a ring light and 2 side lights, and that's it. And it was just 5 playthroughs, not 30 or 40 or 50.
Way.
It was just me, her, a light, a camera, me just directing just a little bit, but that was all her just going all out, getting emotional with the song and just absolutely killing it. And so I've done a few music videos since, and she hit me up, mid-pandemic. She knows my situation. She knows my partner. She knows we're not leaving the house. We're not going anywhere. With Tara, we, the two of us, her and her partner, Joe, just been at the house. They haven't gone out. We're both very safe. And this was like midsummer, like maybe May or June, something like that. She's like, hey, so you need to learn how to use a gimbal, and this is the idea for the video, and yeah, just come to my house and we'll shoot it. And easy enough. She doesn't live far away, so we planned it out. I had Randy was telling me forever, you need to try Leica, try Leica camera, try Leica. And I hit them up, and they sent me a camera to use for the video, which is awesome. So my first experience learning a new camera system, which is way better than the older Canon, didn't have any sort of autofocus for video, but this one did, which is very helpful. I learned how to use a gimbal, which is a very frustrating thing to learn your first time off, but I got it. And rented a gimbal, went over to her place, and we shot different things and shot the music video. And I did all the scenes of her. I didn't do any of the dolls and puppets and stuff that are in the video that are so awesome, but yeah, all the shots of her were just me with a gimbal over a bathtub, or set up in with a black background.
What's a gimbal?
Yeah, a gimbal is it's like kind of a thing that holds your camera and you move it like this, but the camera kind of stays still,
Oh, yeah. I know exactly. Yeah.
I actually have a cell phone gimbal next to me. I can show you what a gimbal looks like.
Oh, good for it.
There we go. This is essentially what a gimbal is, but imagine it like 4 times the size for a camera.
That's amazing. Okay, so as it comes to the camera, just sit still, and you get that's amazing.
Exactly. So I could have it facing down, facing her, and I could bring it up and over. So it's like, if you see any of the shots in the video, that's how it's done with a gimbal.
That's incredible. Really cool.
So obviously I want to talk to you about your books in a minute, but I feel it's important we talk a bit about your friendship with Ash for New Year's Day, because you guys seem really close. You seem to be doing so much together. So you said you met them early on in their career. How is it you two became so close?
So through seminar, actually. I did my first West Coast photo seminar at a place called Soundcheck Hollywood, which unfortunately no longer exists. It was a record store owned by Ash from Sumerian Records. And Mick from 18 Visions worked there. So it's like, cool, awesome. And I didn't know where I was going to do my first seminar, and they were just like, yeah, do it here. And I was like, do you have a band that might want to be the band for the seminar? And they're like, yeah, we have this band we started working with called New Year's Day. And this is before they were signed to Century Media. Early on, like years ago, they did a record, I think, on TVT, which is like a pop punk kind of record. and they were on Warped Tour kind of thing, but they weren't like gothy. They were kind of like, it wasn't really them, if that makes sense. It wasn't their personality as much as their new stuff is. So I didn't know them back then, but they kind of stopped and reinvented themselves. And Victim to Villain is kind of the start of all that. But this is well before Victim to Villain. So this is before that came out. And, they were just a special guest for the seminar. And I roll up wearing a Michael Jackson Thriller shirt. And Ash is like, is that a Thriller shirt? Oh my God, Michael Jackson's my favorite. And then we said something like the same exact thing. I forget, like that scene in Step Brothers where we said something about Michael Jackson at the same exact time. And then we said something else about like another Michael Jackson fact at the same exact time. And then we stopped and we're like, oh my God, are we best friends now? What happened? And we legitimately became best friends because like Michael Jackson, horror movies, we love all the same stuff and we're into all the same stuff. So we were always like, on the same wavelength. And when it came time to do the photos for their first album on Century Media, which was Victim to Villain, they had me on to shoot it. And from there, we just loved creating stuff together. We loved working together because I'll come up with an idea, she'll shoot, she'll come up with a bunch of ideas and I'll shoot. And we just collaborate so often and do so many different things. One of the cool things, the Till Death book came before we really knew each other too well. It was after Victim to Villain, but you do a couple shoots with the band, you kind of know them, but not super well. It was one of those things where she tweeted, men are like Slinkies, they're more fun when you push them downstairs. And I'm like, oh, we should do a photo shoot of that. That's awesome. No, wait, we should do like 10 photo shoots of different concepts. No, wait, we should do a full book like that. And like legit 10 days later, she was on a plane to my house and we'd written out all these ideas. And for the next like 2 weeks, we shot a book and it came out like a couple months later. It was one of those like, let's do this. Like, where in the universe does that ever happen? I've never done that before. She's never done that before. She stayed on my couch rewatching From Hell 7,000 times every night. And every morning we would get up, do some special effects, do the photo shoot, have Chris from Jenna Torturers come in and, ruin his life in multiple ways, multiple times over and over and over and over again. And and the book came out and it was so much fun.
That's amazing.
We just continue working together, continue being close friends, and it's awesome. She rules. She's an amazing human being. I'm super proud of her. Yeah.
I've heard really good things. New Year's Day are incredible. I was listening to them before while I was doing my questions for this. They're such a good band.
Absolutely.
So, Daughters of Darkness. I love the concept behind this book. It's brilliant. But for those unaware, please tell us, what is the book about?
Okay, so it's a book I've worked on for 12 years, and the concept, well, to bring it down to its most basic form, it's a bunch of fine art photos of women wearing only corpse paint. And that brings me back to when I first got into metal, first got into black metal and extreme metal. The things that really got me to buy an album, when not knowing the band name, but seeing the album art, I was like, oh, this album art's so cool. I'm going to check out this band by buying the record. And a lot of that came to do with like, some like really, really cool scene, nude women all bloody or corpse painted up or, anything like that. And then also pushing the envelope with bands like Marduk, Satyricon, Cradle of Filth. Like, think of any Cradle of Filth merch from back then. It was always that, pushing the envelope kind of nude shot of a woman all gothy and all evil looking or in corpse paint and stuff like that. And I was always really into that kind of aesthetic of something can be, beautiful but evil, really creepy and dark, but stunningly beautiful and gorgeous. And that's kind of what black metal is. Like, if you listen to black metal, especially like bands like Cradle of Filth, bands like Dimmu Borgir, who have the keyboards and the really pretty kind of lines in them, you kind of have that, oh, this is really evil black metal, but it's also really beautiful. You have that duality. And especially with the romanticism and like the vampiric romance kind of stuff with Cradle, absolutely. But then you get bands like Satyricon, where it's like Mother North video, where there's this beautiful nude woman dancing and she's the embodiment of, Mother North, which is awesome. So I was doing a photo shoot years and years and years after, I got into metal when I was like 12. So I was into all this stuff forever. And I was doing a photo shoot with a model wearing corpse paint for a t-shirt design. And she was a fan of black metal, as was I. So we did the shoot for the t-shirt, but then we shot a whole bunch of other stuff and we dug it. And I was like, oh, you know what? I really like this aesthetic. It reminds me of, wearing the Marduk shirts, buying the Cradle of Filth, Tristania, Theater of Tragedy records, all that kind of stuff. I should do a series of this. Maybe I'll do like 5 or 10 photo shoots. And a year later, I was like 50 shoots deep. So it was definitely something I was into, and it was something I could do when I needed time off from band photo shoots. You get burnt out if you just do one thing over and over and over again. So I always had this one kind of back end project kind of strung through my career that I would do anytime I had time off. And so over 12 years, I shot it with models from all over the world, and it finally came out in October, which is awesome.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, I have to check that out. I've not seen it. I've seen you do all the posts for it, and you did signings, I think, as well. But I'm definitely gonna have to check that out and have a look at that.
So how do you go approaching the models to this one? How do you get into this conversation? So I want to take a picture of you naked wearing corpse paint.
So what you guys may not know is, aside from band photography, I'm also well known for fine art nude photography, not so much in America, way more in Europe.
Okay. No, I didn't notice.
I'm in books all over, like comp books where, you'll have this book of fine art nude photographs, but it has like 30 photographers in there. I'm in a bunch of those, but I never get published in the US because they don't really have that. They have kind of the more extreme this, the more, censored that. So when the first shoot hit, and I put out the first few shoots when I did them, I was like, okay, this is what I'm working on. Immediately, black metal fans hit me up who are models, black metal fans who wanted to be involved with it who aren't models, and then models who are just like, yes, I need to be a part of this. I love Darkthrone and Immortal, and this is awesome. Yes, I love this aesthetic. Get me in this project. And it just kept going and going and going. I didn't really have to seek anybody out. They just kind of were like, yeah, I want to be a part of it. And anyone I showed the project to who might not have seen it were like, yeah, I would love to shoot with you for that. Because I always have models hit me up, hey, I'd love to shoot with you. Let me know what you're working on. And I'll be like, okay, well, this is what I'm working on. And they'll shoot for it. Which is awesome.
Do you get approached quite a lot by loads of different people?
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any really weird ones, like really weird requests where you're like, in the bin, delete, see you later?
I definitely had a band that was kind of a local band around here hit me up, and this was years ago, and they asked me how much I would pay them to do a photo shoot with them. And I was like, these are my rates for doing a photo shoot. And they're like, well, you pay, how can you pay my chem and Megadeth and Metallica? We're not that big. We won't charge you as much as they charge you to shoot them. And I'm like, homies, no, that's no. But that was probably the strangest, like, what?
I love that. I love the idea they think your rates are for you to pay them. That's amazing.
Exactly. They wanted me to pay them more than I was charging them. I was like, these are my rates to do a photo shoot. And they're like, we think we deserve more than that. I'm like, you could pay me more. What? It took a minute. They're not a band anymore. I can't imagine why, but but yeah, no, I usually don't get a lot of, strange requests or anything. I have my guidelines of what I will and won't do. There are some bands I won't work with, and I'm very clear as to why. If you're a homophobic band, I'm not going to work with you. If you're a band, I'm not going to work with you. If you're like a super problematic band in any negative way, like in those ways, I'm not going to work with you. Same thing with models, same thing with, anything like that. Yeah. But beyond that, I'm pretty just like, I'll work with anyone who wants to work with me. Let's create something awesome.
That's beautiful. I have one question as well. So you have a ridiculously huge, insane Funko Pop collection, yes?
Absolutely. I love
Why Funko. Are you selling it?
So I'm only selling doubles.
Okay, so from what I read, I was just like, look at this entire collection I have. Now let's get rid of it.
See that's something a lot of people don't understand is one of my biggest hobbies. I'd say my biggest hobby is collecting Funkos and collecting records and collecting DVDs and being a collector of too many things. But every weekend I would be at something called a pop swap. So think of it like a flea market, but for Funko collectors only. Everybody comes with their table, they set up all their Funkos, and you buy, sell, and trade. And so when you buy a Funko, you would buy, 2 or 3 at a time because someone else will want it, or like, man, my friend Jerry he needs this Carnage, so I'm gonna buy 2, so I have one for me and one for him. And then there's other times where, like, for example, the Venomized collection, which is like Venomized Loki, Venomized Thanos, I got the whole collection complete. Then they came out with 12 more. So I got those. Then they came out with 12 more, and I'm like, I give up. I'm getting rid of all these Venomized. I'm not going to continue buying every single Venom version of every Marvel character. Every now and again, I kind of purge some of my collection to make room for more, because they're little pops, but once you have thousands of them, it's no longer little. It takes up your entire house. I had to get another house because of Funko. My apartment was too small, and I'm like, I'm running out of room because of Funkos. We need to get we need to move to a bigger house so I can fit my Funko collection. And it was kind of a joke when I started looking, but like I found this perfect house that I live in now, and I actually closed down my studio. My studio is in my house now, so I don't have an external studio anymore. And I found a house that, 1, fit my Funko collection, 2, fit my studio, and 3, had everything I need. My partner's disabled, so it has way less stairs. It barely has any stairs, so it's much better for her. And
perfect.
Yeah, it was just a perfect house, and I'm like, perfect, I can fit my Funko collection here. Let's do this.
Yeah, thanks for already.
Oh, dude, it's a problem. Funkos take up so much room, and so that's why I'm selling a bunch, because I have all these ones I have for pop swaps, and there are no pop swaps. It's COVID, so pop swaps are not happening. Yeah, so due to COVID, I have all these pops just sitting here, and I'm like, there's not going to be a pop swap for quite some time. I might as well just purge them, and so I'm selling those and getting more pops at the same time. It's a thing.
Oh, Jeremy. You struggle finding chase ones? Because I thought chases are quite hard to find, aren't they?
Sometimes it depends on what they are.
Okay.
It's always different. Sometimes they're 1 in 6, sometimes they're 1 in 36. Sometimes there's exclusives where they only print like 1,000 or 500 of them, and those are really hard to find. But I'm very specific on what I collect. I won't buy every Funko. Like, I'm not a big anime guy, so I don't buy anime Funkos. I'm definitely not a sports guy, so I don't have any sports Funkos. I collect the stuff that I'm into. And the unfortunate thing is I'm into a lot of stuff, and they have Funkos for all of them. So it's just kind of like, homie, stop. Like, forever for Transformers, I'm a huge Transformer nerd. They only had the ones from the new movies. I'm like, cool, I have a complete Funko collection. And then they just released the Generation 1, like 80s cartoon version of Transformer pops. And I have all of them, of course, because I have to.
Of course.
But I was just like, now I have to redo the wall and move these here and move these here. So, Optimus can be next to Optimus because he has to be with, and Megatron can be with Megatron. Important thing.
That's how it works. It's your record collection the same. So it's like albums so it's like one band in particular, their albums have to be in order when they were released.
This is alphabetical by order. Same with my DVD wall, which is about 10 times the size of this. My DVD wall is bigger than my Funko wall. I have like 5,000 DVDs.
Dude, wow. That's incredible.
That's amazing.
Wow.
And then I also have a collection of life-size horror figures around my TV. I have about 40 or 50 of them. I don't know if you guys have seen that meme where, like, what would you do if you woke up in this living room and it's like the Nun, Pennywise, all those things?
Yeah.
I get tagged in that every single day, and they're just like, this is not even half of your collection. They should see yours. I'm like, yeah, they kind of is what it is.
How would you move around your house? There's been no floor space. How do you walk around your house? There's been no floor space at all.
Because of Funko, but we just move the Funkos around as needed. It's kind of like a Funko hoarders kind of situation.
Sideways shuffles.
Yeah. But that is to answer the original question. The reason we're selling him is to have more room.
Okay.
Or more Funkos.
If you want to go follow Jeremy Saffer, go follow him and go buy some Funkos.
Yeah. That's amazing. I wanted to ask earlier as well. You know, we've noticed that you've worked with musicians, actors. There's so much. Are there any dream clients you've had? Someone you really want to get in front of the camera, but you've just not been able to?
So there's a lot of people I've shot live that I've not done photo shoots with that I would love to, but I always keep a bucket list. And the coolest thing in the universe is when you can take someone from that bucket list and add them to like your list of accomplishments. The worst thing is when you got to take them off the bucket list because they've passed away. But for me, like atop my bucket list is to do a Metallica band shoot rather than individual photos of them. Ozzy, doing a photo shoot with Ozzy would be amazing. Elvira as Elvira. Henry Rollins would be really cool. A lot of things I want to do are just very specific ideas. Like I would love to work with Lori Petty. She's awesome. I would want to do a Lori Petty as Tank Girl. You know, her dressed as Tank Girl would be the coolest thing in the universe. Like very specific things like that are on my bucket list that will probably never come to fruition, but you know, fingers crossed one day. But essentially any band I haven't worked with is on that list of people I want to work with. Being a Funko collector, it's kind of like, same thing with photos. And that's how I got into photography, being a collector. So I was the kid at the end of shows where I would wait by the tour bus to get all my CDs signed by the band, right? You know, there's people like that. There's plenty of them. You collect autographs, you collect, you know, getting your photo taken with bands. And then you think of, okay, what's a more unique thing that no one else has? Oh, these people in front of me who are taking pictures of the band, they're getting these photos of the band that no one else has. That's really cool. How can I do that? Then I learned how to do that. Okay, so everyone next to me are also getting photos of the band, just like I'm getting. How can I get something more exclusive that no one else is getting? Photo shoots with the band. Absolutely exclusive. Collector mentality.
I love it.
That's amazing.
Love it.
Right. Tom, have you got any more questions before we move on?
One more. Did you ever think that your life would turn out the way it has? Did you ever think you'd be where you are today?
Oh, no way. I mean, the original idea was to be a guitarist or, you know, a producer, something in music. So, you know, photography was never, you know, the trajectory when I was younger. It just happened. But it's really cool because I grew up with all these photos of bands on my walls. Like my walls didn't exist. It was just photos from Hit Parader, from Circus, from Metal Hammer, from Metal Edge, from Metal Maniacs, just wall to wall photos. If there was ever an inkling of fire, I was doomed. But you know, that's how my walls are, and that's how a lot of kids who are into music, their walls are like that. And all of those photos on my wall are bands I've worked with for the most part. And it's really cool seeing other people post their photos with their walls covered and my photos are on their walls, and they're getting into photography and they're like, these photos are why I'm into photography, which is really, really cool. You're that's like amazing. Inspiring the next generation to have, you know, to look back in 10 years and see their photos on the walls of people. You know, that's always a really, really cool thing.
It's beautiful. And you're teaching them as well.
Absolutely.
Beautiful, man. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Right. Before we get out of here, because we are almost done, we will let you go soon. We like to play a little game with our guests. We call it the quick fire round. It's just a bunch of questions and you answer them as quick as you can. It's very, very silly, but we enjoy it. So, you know.
I will do my best as least Dory as possible.
No Dory involved. Don't worry, you're fine. For example, question number 1. Your favorite Power Ranger?
Favorite Power Ranger? Green Ranger, because he's Green Ranger and White Ranger.
Yes.
Tommy.
Yes.
So it's Billy for me.
He's a Billy fan.
Billy's awesome. And then the Pink Ranger, Amy Jo Johnson, because she did that pop album, which was really good, and she should have continued doing music. Don't know why she didn't. She was awesome.
It's just an album. I can check that out as well.
Yeah,
it's good. It's actually good. Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Your favorite chocolate / candy bar?
Probably Snickers. I'm not much for chocolate or candy.
Really?
Being a diabetic doesn't help the cause. But
Sorry, Jeremy.
No, it's all good. Before diabetes, I also wasn't a big candy guy. Like Snickers is okay, but I'm not a big candy or chocolate guy.
Not everyone.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
First ever gig you went to?
First gig I went to when I was really young was New Kids on the Block, but the first metal gig was Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Suicidal Tendencies, Danzig.
Holy shit!
I think I've heard of them.
What a show!
I knew Enter Sandman. That's all I knew. I was so young, but yeah.
Still
That's
fucking
how you
cool,
do
though.
They played the Sandman song. I was stoked.
Who would play you in the movie of your life?
Oh God.
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, like I wish. He would have to gain like 70 pounds for the role minimally, and like shrink 5 feet. I don't know. Kevin James with a beard? I have no idea.
That's amazing. A piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Take more chances and don't hesitate in doing things you want to do, because there's so many times that held me back. Like, for example, I was on Ozfest and I never even shot Ozzy on Ozfest because I never asked to. And I know you're not supposed to because you're not the approved Ozzy photographer. You know, I was shooting the bands I was supposed to shoot, and I would just do that and go about my day. I never would, okay, I should shoot System of a Down every night. I should try to shoot Ozzy every night. I never took those chances, and those are chances I regret not taking.
Who knows what the future might hold, sir?
Oh, yeah. And last but not least, and the answer to this question all depends if we even release this episode, to be honest with you.
Fair.
Does pineapple belong on a pizza?
Oh, yeah.
It's been nice knowing you, Jeremy. See you later, mate.
Nah. All right. So let me tell you what it's about. It's about Hawaiian pizza with barbecue sauce, spicy barbecue sauce as the base. It is amazing. Spicy barbecue sauce with ham and pineapple on a pizza. It doesn't have the red sauce on it. It just has, barbecue sauce instead of red sauce.
Interesting.
I hate that this has us both intrigued.
You got to try it with spicy. If you like spicy food, spicy barbecue. If you don't like spicy, sweet barbecue sauce. Sweet barbecue sauce as the base with ham, bacon, pineapple.
Okay, I'm going to trust you. We'll see how it turns out. But yeah, it's just fruits and savory. It's just weird. It's just a weird combination to me.
It's definitely interesting duality. I do like regular, Hawaiian pizza, but
yeah,
once I tried it with spicy barbecue, I'm like, this is a different game. This is a different game. Someone changed the game and made it better. Like, oh my God, it's so good.
Okay,
I am fat. I know good food. Fat food.
I think we should have to make one of these, and we'll try it on our YouTube channel to see how it goes.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Do it.
Do
it. The barbecue sauce makes it. It makes it so much better.
I'm intrigued. Jeremy, this has been so much fun. It's honestly truly inspirational because, your story is amazing and your attitude on life, just absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for doing this. It means the world.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Not at all. Jeremy, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Before we get out of it, just quickly, any social medias, websites, anything you want to plug, tell people to go throw their money at, anything.
Sure. So all my socials are just at Jeremy Saffer. So my website's jeremysaffer.com. Instagram and Facebook are just /Jeremy Saffer. If you want to get the book, it's available on pretty much every bookseller's website, like Amazon, Barnes & Noble. But if you go to daughtersofdarknessbook.com, you can get limited edition, signs editions, the edition that comes with the vinyl soundtrack we got to put together, which was awesome. And I have a Patreon if you want to learn from me during COVID. That's where I'm posting all my kind of behind the scenes and breakdowns, which is patreon.com/Jeremy Saffer.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for doing this again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And thank you very much, my friend.
Dude, thank
Jeremy,
you so much.
Take care. Have a great day. Take care, buddy.
Thanks, you too. Thanks for having me.
No worries, man. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.